We're live right now.
Oh, we're live, man. We're making it happen.
Hi.
So what we're doing is while we're live and just chatting, people are coming on. And the beautiful thing about this format, guys, is we're going to just boost it all over the world, and so many people are going to see it. All right. So, Hillary, we're going to start with you and Jason. So who's going first?
Hillary, take it away, my dear.
Okay. I want to thank everyone. I want to thank everyone for attending and registering. And number one, I want to thank Tim Storey for facilitating this incredible mental health summit. And I want to thank you to the speakers that are going to be coming on and sharing their experience, strength, and hope so that people can have more knowledge and have insight. My name is Hillary Roberts, and I am the founder of Red Songbird Foundation. And I started this mission in 2009. And for some of the reasons I started this is because I was a woman that was an alcoholic and a drug addict, and I almost died over and over again. And I ended up in places, dark places. And then when I got sober, finally when I got sober, I had nightmares every single night my first 6 years of sobriety. I was a woman I was a child that suffered horrific childhood trauma starting at age 3 and continued on into my adolescent years. And for 6 years, I had nightmares every single night that I was being attacked. And I lived a lifestyle off and on in reactivity mode where I could not have peace inside myself. I wanted to die all the time. And I had suicidal ideation. It was so painful and so dark. And finally, I was told by my spiritual advisor that if I didn't go get help for my trauma, that she no longer would be there for me. And a foundation, she had set it up with a foundation that I would have half my treatment paid for. And I went to this treatment, and there I was able to tell my entire family and the whole truth about my life, where I hadn't been believed in certain areas. And my life began to change. It was a process. I had to walk through fire to get to the joy. And my greatest hope today is that you all listening, you're going to hear people talk about their own journeys. And then my greatest hope is that you will find answers, that you will be inspired by our speakers and by the professionals on here today. And more than that, I hope that we will inspire you to have the courage to take the action to get to the yay of life, because I never knew my life could be so good. Yes, you see the glitz and the glamour today, but I had that peace within myself way before that came along. And I've been given an unshakable foundation for life by having the courage to walk through the hell. And I started sending people to treatment personally in 2009 and getting them help for trauma, mental health, alcoholism and drug addiction, and codependency, and all of these things. And if you have a family member or a friend that's afflicted with this is not, they can't help the PTSD and they can't help the disease that they have, but they can reach out and get help. So my life is amazing today. I don't have nightmares anymore. It's been once in a blue moon. I have the tools, and I have a peace that passes all understanding. And I want the same for you. I want the same for you. And hopefully today with Tim Storey and Jason Waller, my incredible co-chair, and the incredible speakers today, we can give you some ways to find that solution. My heart is with you, and welcome to the journey. I want to also tell you that Jason Waller and I met in May of 19 when Red Songbird became official, and I had a huge event at the Beverly Hilton, and Jason Waller came to my event, and we started connecting. And as we connected, he feels like, you have those friends that feel like blood to you and feel like that spirit of just that spirit of family. And Jason and I became that. And Jason said he wanted to get involved. And the more and more we talked, we made it official in November of this last year of 2019. And we added not just trauma, but mental health, substance abuse, and alcoholism to our roster. And I'm so glad we did, because all that was hand in hand with me too. And so my brother from another mother, my amazing co-chair, the man whose life has been transformed, you can see it on the TV shows, the difference that he's made. And I love him with all my heart. And I want to introduce you to my beautiful co-chair, Jason Waller.
Thank you, Hillary. What a nice introduction. Really am just in a lot of gratitude right now sitting here. You know, the fact that we have the first ever mental health summit on our side talking about this, you know, it's absolutely incredible. You know, Tim, want to thank you. I mean, you're a man that's helped me in many ways for many years now, and, you know, guided me and directed me, as have you, Hillary, you know, from a different perspective. You taught a lot about myself. And that's where we got talking about this, right? We wanted to touch base around mental health, substance abuse, trauma, all the things that our world's facing today. We are all we're in the midst of a pandemic, but we also have a pandemic within the pandemic. You know, mental health, substance abuse, suicides, they're at an all-time high. They're at the highest they've ever been. And I think that's, you know, and this is an amazing opportunity. And I want to thank the panel that's coming on, all these amazing doctors, you know, special guests, who are going to be able to provide some insight, be able to provide some, you know, direction. And I want to thank everybody else that's on the other side of this, that's watching, that took the time, that cares enough about your health and well-being, because oftentimes we don't take enough time for ourselves. And, you know, this, if you're here, you're pausing and you're actually doing something nice for yourself to get educated and, or just get a better understanding. And it's just crazy. We did a poll, you know, about 6 months ago around mental health versus physical health. And 97% of people understood what physical health was, but 6% understood and did anything for their mental health. And you look at where we're at today. So this is just an amazing opportunity for people to connect and be able to learn as much as possible. And as you stated, Hillary, it's been a pleasure to be a part of the Red Songbird Foundation and to be able to do the things that we were doing. When we met, it was just synergistic. We had, you know, the same motives, the same morals, the same values. And, you know, what we really want to do is provide hope for others. You know, as you stated around myself, I'm the guy that went to, you know, 13 different treatment centers from Florida to Hawaii, every state in between, dealt with, you know, run-ins with the law, you know, and back when I was on those shows, I was the drunk womanizing alcoholic, you know, 13, 14 years ago. And today I'm married, have a beautiful family. I love my wife dearly, got a little baby girl, Delilah. And, you know, I went from that to being able to, you know, be back on these shows and provide hope and share my story. And, you know, by expressing vulnerability, it creates humility. And, you know, I think you'll get that through some of our guests here today, where they're going to open up and they're going to share about what's going on and how they've overcome and battled and how they maintain. So I'm just really honored to be here. You know, we do have some of the leading professionals in the medical and mental health space, you know, and that's what this summit's all about. You know, influential people and events in the field who can provide, you know, insight and direction for you guys. So I'm excited to be here. Love both of you. Grateful to the people that are joining us, and I'm excited to kick this off.
Beautiful. Okay, Hillary and Jason, it's going to be great today, as you're saying. And I want to say to everybody watching, share because you care, and let other people know that we're on right now. And as Jason said, amazing guests. As Hillary and Jason have described, let me just tell you a little bit about this whole idea of when people are struggling in this area of what some would call mental illness or mental distractions, mental behavior. Usually the effects that they both talked about is depression, can cause anxiety, panic disorders, post-traumatic stress disorder. Hillary talked about that. Also eating disorders. But as Jason Waller often tells me, it is it's a bit of an echoing effect. It's almost like something that can pass on from one family member to the next family member. And that's why it's so important that we deal with things within ourselves. And so that's what we're doing today, is that we are simply shining the light. And as Hillary said, we are going to give you some great tools, but the whole idea is to take action. So we're going to start with our first guest that we're so excited about, and that is Dr. Sarah Williams Toliver. So Sarah, you're looking great. Let's start with that. And I read your bio. I'm just going to give a little bit of it because it's so grand that it would take up 2 shows. But Dr. Sarah is a licensed psychotherapist, board certified counselor, and life coach with a specialty in grief and trauma. And she's been a consultant on A&E, Lifetime, Sky 4 TV, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Dr. Sarah Williams, good to have you with us today.
Thank you so much. I am just delighted to be here and fully supportive of the Red Song Foundation. I mean, literally when I found out about the foundation, they had me at hello. And the fact that I'm sitting here is nothing short of a miracle. I live by the quote that broken things become blessed things if you allow God to do the mending. And just the mere fact that I was broken for so long in my life. I am a survivor of racial trauma. I grew up in the rural South, and I had to endure quite a few experiences that no child should have to endure. And along the line, there was trauma as well. And given with that, there was always this infinite belief within myself that something has to change and things can and do get better. And as I went through life, I had many times of dark periods. I suffered with anxiety and depression, more so because I'm a professor turned therapist. Most people think that I got my PhD and I went into therapy, and no. I was a college professor and I was teaching, and I actually thought that's what God had for me in my plan, that this is what I'm doing. And I literally was struck with 2 traumas back to back. I lost my mother to cancer, and then within 2 years, I lost my husband to cancer as well. And 6 months into the grieving, I literally was in such a dark place that I wanted to kind of disappear. I wanted to cover my head up and just never face anyone anymore, until my children came to my bedroom door one day and they asked me, "Mom, are you ever going to get up?" And from that moment, it happened. And I knew that I had no choice. I had to get up, and I had to face my demons, and I had to look at myself in the mirror, and I had to understand that yes, things happen to you, but it doesn't make who you are, that you can believe and you can achieve great things one step at a time. Now, most people ask me, well, how did it happen? What happened? And literally I was leading everything by faith. I could not see one step in front of the other. I literally just had to go blindly through faith, and then one opportunity after another, because what I realized is that hurting and trauma is a shared experience. And it makes me a better therapist and coach because I have seen and I have experienced so much myself. So a lot of people that see me for help, and right now amidst the pandemic, there's an influx of individuals that are suffering right now. They had pre-existing conditions as it was, and then our populations and people of color are suffering more so because of the existing racial tensions that are currently going on. And within that climate, we are still expected to show up, be parents, be professionals, and survive this. And what I would say is that just in general, that we don't necessarily see things as they are. We see things as we are. If we show up with hurt and brokenness and pain and trauma and anger and all of the above, then we're not going to ever cohesively heal and move forward.
That's very powerful. Dr. Sarah, there's 2 things that stand out. Number one, you talked about racial trauma.
Yes.
And that's not on a lot of people's radar. So when we think of mental health, when I'm studying mental health so much, and as Hillary is and Jason is, you don't always see the racial trauma. Can you give me about 2 minutes of that, of what you mean by that, just for those that don't understand it?
Absolutely. Racial trauma actually occurs. It can be something as obvious as the murder of George Floyd on an open street in broad daylight, and knowing that I am a mother of a Black son. I have a daughter. Is she going to be a Breonna Taylor? That is racial trauma. That means that something as simple as we live in a nice area, we have the best schools,
Yes.
and I'm a professional, but the fear that my son could just leave and go for a jog and not come back because of the color of his skin.
Yes.
And go through that on a daily basis is what is one example that defines racial trauma.
Okay, tell me, Dr. Sarah, another thing you said that stood out to me was that your children were saying, basically, Mom, are you going to get out of bed? And
Correct.
so Hillary talks about this in her story, that, it affects everybody around you. Jason says the same thing. So now there you are as the mother, right? And the mother is supposed to guide the children, guard the children, and govern the children. And you didn't even feel like you had the strength to get out of bed. So how did that affect you, and how did that affect them?
For the most part, I think that God was using my children to speak to me, to tell me what I needed to do, because I had no idea.
Yes.
It was a heightened level of guilt that I felt, and I felt somewhat like a failure of a parent because I couldn't shake the grief. I couldn't shake the depression. I just couldn't do it on my own. I had to go get help, and I had to find a therapist that could relate to me as a high-performing professional.
Yes.
And actually what drove me to become the therapist and the coach that I am, to work with individuals that are in the high professions, leaders, and different folks that have a lot of responsibilities. But literally it's because it's an impact on my children. But the blessing in this is that my children have watched me go through the steps and rise above it. And I was able to show my children what moving on looks like.
Yes.
And that's been the blessing.
And that's beautiful. So Dr. Sarah Williams, phenomenal insight. We have a very packed show, so we're going from one to the next. But how can we find out more about you? What is your website? What is your Instagram? How can we find out more about you?
Okay, well, on Instagram, it's drsarah.w, DRSARAH.w. And my website is drsarahw.org. And you can find me there. And I'm open to emails. You can send me an email at info@covenantwaywellness.org.
Okay,
Thank you.
all that information. You were fantastic.
Thank
And
you.
you look tremendous. Hillary, I'm going to have you unmute yourself. I want you to give me maybe a 30 to 60 second takeaway of what you got from Dr. Sarah, and then I'm going to have Jason Waller do the same.
Well, first of all, Dr. Sarah she is a beautiful, amazing woman. She sought us out. What a blessing. What an angel. And
Yeah.
Dr. Sarah, when she and I have had conversations, and she didn't discuss this, but she talked about forgiving those that had been so cruel to her, kept her back with her career, with her education, Caucasian people that were very prejudiced. And she comes from a place of love and forgiveness towards them. And so she is such an inspiration to me with that. And you're a woman of dignity and grace, Dr. Sarah. And I just to discuss this thing of race that is so prevalent and what's going on right now, and your faith in God, it's just absolutely beautiful. And I thank you for being so vulnerable and so real with us. You're an angel. That's all.
Jason Waller, what did you take from Dr. Sarah Williams?
I mean, after getting to know her, especially on a deeper level, when we did a podcast together and being able to share I mean, she's just gone through so much where there's a ton of inspiration there. She motivates me and gives me, just instills that passion. But something that I really personally connected to is the debilitation of mental health and, not being able to literally get up, and, not feeling like there's a way out. And I think there's a lot of people that feel that way. And I think the biggest thing is to let people know that they're not alone, but there is a solution. And, I take Dr. Sarah as a prime example. Look what she's been able to accomplish and what she's been able to do through hard work. Anything worth having is not easy. And Dr. Sarah, you're a prime example of that. And I commend you and to where you are today to be able to connect and spread hope. I mean, it's inspirational.
I love it. Okay, you are watching the Red Songbird Foundation Virtual Mental Health Summit, and we are helping people to get through trying times. And we believe that we can make a difference, make a change, that as you rise up, you'll cause other people to rise up. Amazing guest today. So share because you care. And we will have this on many, many platforms for people to watch later. Many of you will watch live. And so we're excited that you're here. My next guest is fantastic, Dr. Amy Vance Lambrook. And she is a doctor and she deals many times in the area of trauma. She has her own podcast. She's a speaker. She is a therapist, a coach, and is phenomenal in couples relationships. So if you are a couple, she's good to go to. And she is a personal friend. She's coming all the way from Florida. And good to have you with us today, Dr. Amy.
It is so wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for including me. I have you have endeared yourselves to me so quickly. And I have such a heart for your message and from just the whole heart from which this comes. So thank you so much, Tim.
Dr. Amy,
and Jason,
I'm going to ask you a couple of questions right off the bat, and then we'll get into other things that are interesting to you. When you look at this whole idea of mental illness, I talked earlier at the beginning, it can cause depression, anxiety, panic disorder, PTSD, eating disorders. In your practice, what is one or two of the areas you seem to be dealing with the most?
I deal a lot with PTSD and how that shows up in relationships, especially how that affects our ability to communicate and also how it affects our physical health. It has broad reaching effects physically that people don't understand lots of times. There's a real connection, especially when it's been complex trauma, Hillary, like you talked about, and that's been my story from the age of 5. And so it involves a lot of the systems in the body. And so I treat from a holistic perspective that really tries to take that into account. But this year, especially, people who hadn't really been touched as deeply by trauma have really been experiencing the effects of PTSD. They may not know that that's what it is, but as we talk more and more about it, they understand that. When I was first given that diagnosis, it was a little bit jarring to me. But then the more I understood that it's really about establishing safety and trying to do the best you can in a situation no human should have to experience, that's what PTSD is.
Very, very powerful. So Jason and Hillary both talked about this whole idea of COVID-19. So let's say you had a problem already, and then this COVID-19 and everything that we're dealing with just has amplified everything. How are you finding that most people are coping in the midst of the amplification of a problem that was already existing?
Exactly. It's interesting because those of us who've dealt with trauma before, we're kind of watching the world experience what we've been experiencing for decades. Oftentimes, the world has gone through a cultural trauma trigger. You're watching people in the grocery store with masks and they're in the middle of fight or flight, and that's something that we're very familiar with. However, there's sort of this weird paradox. Yes, it's something we're familiar with. We know how to do life when trauma is happening in the background, but it's also causing some re-triggering and some exhaustion, because the body continues to try to process everything that's happening around. The heart, the spirit, the mind is trying to take all of that in. And so it's another layer of trauma that most people didn't need. And it's causing a re-triggering for people that's making them question, did I undo the work I did? Do I need to redo these things? They kind of go to self-criticism a lot of times, and they don't understand that, this is an enormous trauma for us as a nation, for communities, and for individuals and families. And so once they can start to appreciate that, they can start to have grace for themselves, and also the people around them who may be dealing with trauma for the first time.
So Dr. Amy, you were talking about the word effect. And when I was looking at the effects of this challenge, you have mood problems, many times sleep, people making the right decisions, lack of clarity, and also phobias. Can you talk to me about this phobia side? Because I'm finding that a lot of people, from watching the news so much and hearing so many negative things about COVID-19, that their phobias have escalated. And then after you give your information, I'm going to have Jason Waller comment on that, because he's dealing with a lot of men that are dealing with phobias. Talk to me about that, Dr. Amy.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is, and Dr. Mark Hyman was the one who brought this to light, just the fact that we're wearing masks causes the brain to go to an adversarial state. And so we're in this kind of fight or flight when we're trying to buy toilet paper in the grocery store, and the area of the brain that handles the emotions is literally inflamed because we're in this kind of warring state with one another, and we don't even know. And so you can start to develop these phobias, and when you're on high alert all the time and you're in fight or flight and you feel like you have to protect yourself, that exacerbates phobias that you never even thought you'd have. Suddenly there's a phobia that you're going to run out of supplies, so you're going to the grocery store compulsively to try to stock up on things. Well, remember, our brains and our hearts are always scanning for safety. When we're in relationships and there are triggers and conflicts, it's just about feeling unsafe. And the same is true in phobias. And so when you really peel back the layers of a phobia and you understand, what is the true fear behind it all? Because it isn't that you'll run out of supplies. It's often that you'll be left abandoned and you'll be unprotected and you won't have what you need. That's a normal human concern that we can then start to deal with and say, how can we reassure that part of yourself? What would you say to a child if they were experiencing that? Because I do a lot of inner child work. It's what was transformative for me. And so when we start to approach that, it's amazing how wise people are and how we can really diffuse any trauma, any phobia, any trauma when we start to use the language that's already in your heart for how to deal with that.
Beautiful. Jason, what's going through your mind when she's talking?
How am I supposed to back that up? I mean, she crushed that. I mean, there's a perfect example of that. And I always think with phobias or fear, it's something, an acronym that stuck with me many years ago is, face everything and run, or face everything and rise. And I think when you look at that and you can get to a spot of contentment and actually process, when I get into, the fear of things, I use a AAA modality. It's awareness, acceptance, and action. If you're not aware of stuff, you can't be able to accept it and you'll never be able to take an action. So I think it's imperative that we pause. We're aware of what's causing this, get to the place of acceptance and then formulate a plan of action.
Beautiful. Hillary, if you can unmute yourself, what are you thinking when Dr. Amy Van Slambrook is speaking? And you're muted, but I know you're saying great things.
Okay. First of all, thank you so much, Dr. Amy. And, for me, you talk about the physical, and the physical, I I found out that a lot of people that have experienced the trauma that I experienced have suffered from IBS, which is very interesting. And, you know, that has also healed, I would say probably 90%, which is a miracle. But it is that mind-body connection. It's wild. I mean, and I so appreciate that you discuss that and you talk about the inner child work, because for me, when I first learned about that, I was like, okay, yeah, talk to your little Hillary here. But it was transformative to speak and have the pictures of those ages of the abuse. And you know, what's interesting is I would hide those photos because I didn't want to look at her. The shame was so great. I would hide it under the bed, or it was just weird. And today she's out and I give her love. As cheesy as it sounds, guys, it works. So Dr. Amy, I look forward to speaking with you more after our summit.
Absolutely.
Amy,
Absolutely. Yes.
Tim, can I ask one question real quick? Amy, I'd like to ask you, for people that struggle with PTSD, what is one of the first steps people could do
in order to try to get a handle on it? Right. I think, you know, one of the first steps is to really ground yourself. I think that's one of the most important things in PTSD, because Bessel van der Kolk says, you know, trauma prohibits us from being here now. You know, it tells us that the past is happening right around us. And that's essentially what PTSD is. And when you heal, you're able to be here now. So what being grounded does is it allows you to be here now. So there are really simple grounding techniques that I use with just about everybody I work with, whether it's having a piece of jewelry or whether it's pressing your feet into the floor. It literally grounds you physically so that your mind starts to come back. You know, you aren't dissociating, you aren't thrown back into that moment. You look around and you get grounded, and then you look around and you're surrounded by something that you're well in this moment. Hopefully, you know, that they aren't in a traumatic event in the process, but it's reminding yourself right now, I'm well and safe.
Okay, you're watching Red Songbird Mental Health Summit. This is Dr. Amy Van Slambrook, did fantastic. We move at a nice pace because we have so many guests, so much time. But Dr. Amy, how can we best connect with you? One of the things I love that you're doing, I love that Hillary wants to connect with you already. She's that good. But you do a lot of one-on-one counseling, therapy work. You're phenomenal with counselors, other counselors. You're also great with couples. You're working with couples. You're doing couples summits online. How do we best connect with you?
All of that information is on my website, amyvanslambrook.com. It sounds so much more complicated than it is, but it's not. It's really simple. And I'm also on Instagram, so you can always DM me there and I'll direct you to all of the resources, but everything will be listed on my website because there are exciting things coming up. And I'm just so privileged to help anybody who needs it right now. That's my whole heart.
Let's give her a clap.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Very, very good. Okay, we got one of our good friends on coming up right now, Miss Kerry Kasem. We're loving the hair. Just know that. The hair is happy. So let me just give a proper introduction. She's a multimedia personality. Some people say that people are a triple threat. She's a threat in 10 different areas. The other day on Instagram, she even posted herself playing piano and singing. This woman does it all. She is a media personality, producer, writer, and she is the founder and leader of Kasem Cares. What it's a privilege for me to be even part of that board, and Jason Waller and his family also support. So we are supporters of Kasem Cares, and she's a woman who cares and who is making a difference in millions of people's lives. Good to have you, Kerry Kasem.
Thank you so much. I mean, if I had that intro every time I woke up. Hi, everyone. Hi, Jason.
Hi.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
Okay, so Kerry, let me ask you some specific questions. When we talk about this thing of mental illness or challenges on the mental health side, okay? and that many times it causes depression, anxiety, panic disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, eating disorders. Let's get away from your life for a minute. Let's talk about people that you're around. Have you seen this affect many people that you're around?
Sure. And, you know, it affected me. So we can talk about it. You know, I, many years ago had, you know, I was diagnosed with all these different things. Oh, depression, panic disorder, ADD. I had all these different mental illnesses, if you will. And I went to a psychiatrist, and within 20 minutes, he diagnosed me with all these different mental illnesses and never ever drew my blood, never ever tested me for all these different issues I was having. And if he would have seen that I was horribly anemic, like to the point where I had to go to the hospital and get infusion after infusion after infusion. He would have seen that my vitamin levels were like at horrible levels. I was a vegan, doing it really poorly. And I had all these underlying health issues, including a very high ANA count, which is anti-nuclear antibodies. They thought I had an autoimmune disease. I was sick physically, not mentally. It was in here, you know, like I was sick here, but I was diagnosed up here. So when I took all these different medications, it made me worse. I was the one that just crashed. I got all on these medications, and I wouldn't have wanted to live like that for the rest of my life. It was really horrible for me. So it took me years, but I got my health in order, which then got my mental health in order, and I didn't have ADD. I was so afraid I was stupid. I really thought I was an idiot. I couldn't remember things. I couldn't, I felt like an airhead at times. And I've now been on, you know, talk radio host for 23 years. I never thought that would ever happen. So I had the panic disorder. I would wake up and feel like I was dead. It's terrifying, literally terrifying. Or I had to call my sister and be like, am I on the phone with you? You know, so I had these mental illnesses, but they came from the fact that I had underlying health issue. And, you know, that's why I created Breakthrough Naturally, which are supplements for emotional well-being. And they're amazing.
Yes. And we're going to find out at the end on how to get that. So, you know, in knowing your story of your dad being the Kerry Kasem, who I listen to even on Sirius XM radio now, is that to have that standard so high, and yet you felt like, you know, I don't even have the mental clarity, right? It was disturbing my body. What kind of pressure did that put on you? That the standard was so high of what they thought that a Kasem should be like, and you felt like at times that you could not even function correctly?
Yeah, you know, having a famous last name will get you in the door in a lot of places, but if you are not up to par, nobody's going to stick you on their radio station because you have a famous last name. I had to be not just good, but better than most. And when you're feeling like you can't get the next word out because you can't think of it, or you're feeling stupid, I had to overcome so much of that. But as I was healing, my brain got better and better, and I could think, and I felt better, and I wow, I'm not stupid. Hold on a second, and my career just grew and grew and grew. The more I got, you know, under control with my health and using a lot of therapy. I've been in therapy since I was 8, so I've done everything. Name the therapy, I've done it. But it was really truly when I got my health in order, did I feel like I could play the bigger game. I could go into the big leagues. I can be on the bigger stations. But it was hard, you know, there was a lot of pushback. It was like, well, you know, you're a Kasem, let's see what you can do. And
darkest moment, was there ever a time that you thought extremely dark thoughts? And I'm not going to put words in mind of what they were, because it was your thoughts.
Yeah.
But what were the darkest thoughts you thought?
There's a period that and this is when I went to the psychiatrist, and it was like, I never ever seriously thought about suicide, but it was like, I don't want to live like this. I can't live like this. Weird songs would go through my head over and over. It was like, what's happening? Why am I so, you know, down and feel sad and want to cry? I mean, it was horrible. So that's when I went. And that's when I got put on medications that made me feel like even worse than where I was at. And I'm like, there's something else. Something else has got to be wrong with me. And for me, I just kept looking until I found it. And thank God I did. Thank God. And there's a lot of people. Yes, Jason?
Just a quick question. Well, no, finish your thought real quick, please.
Yeah, just a lot of people that I see going through the same thing I did. I'm like, please go get your vitamins tested. Please go see if you have any underlying health issues first before you say you're mentally ill or diagnosed with a mental illness. Please do that. That is so important, because a lot of times, and some doctors say 95% of what they call mental illnesses are underlying health issues. So that's what I tell people. I'm like, please go check your body out.
And something just real quick on that. And we'll, Tim, a great note for Dr. Hedrick, because that's something that we see all the time, especially in the substance abuse space, is so many people are misdiagnosed when they're exhibiting signs of, detoxing from other things, whether it's, a drug-induced psychosis, they're getting all these forms of mental illness and they're being misdiagnosed. But Casey, I have a question for you. I mean, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here.
Good to see you too.
In that state you just shared about, though, there's a lot of people, I'm telling you this firsthand, there's people that reach out every single day that are struggling with this right now that I've talked to. For our listeners and for our viewers right now, if they're in that state that you were in, with that mental health, with those suicidal ideations, that not being able to get out, what would be your advice?
I have to be very clear. I never ever thought about suicide. It was like, I can't live this way. What can I do to fix it? And I always have had that, but it was like, the thoughts were like, I can't live this way, right? But I'm going to find something. And thank God, who knows where it would have gone, but thank God I found something to help me. What would be my advice? My advice, and when I've told people, when I talk to them, whether it's in conferences with thousands of people, one-on-one, whatever it is please go see a doctor and make sure you do not have underlying health issues. Like for anemia can bring on anxiety, can bring on ADD. Same with vitamin D issues. There's so many different. Magnesium can actually give you panic disorder if you do not have enough magnesium. Calcium, there's a few different things. I have it on my website, but there's certain minerals and vitamins that can give you panic issues if you don't have enough of it in you. Now, when you use fluoride toothpaste, I just learned this because I couldn't get B vitamins into my system. Fluoride blocks B vitamins from going into your system. You need B vitamins for, mental health, for your nerves, for your ability to stay calm and think properly, along with calcium. Calcium coats the nerves, right? So when you are lacking in that, you're going to have issues that look and sound and feel like a mental illness.
Okay, I'm talking to Kerry Kasem, the Red Song Foundation Virtual Mental Health Summit. Hillary, what's going through your mind as you hear the brilliant Kerry Kasem talk?
Just very quickly, because I know we have people to get, but Kerry, first of all, you're absolutely gorgeous. Drop dead gorgeous. So,
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. And not only that, I can tell you're just more beautiful even on the inside, if that's even possible. But the bottom line is, I was so lethargic and depressed, and my vitamin D was so low. I get my blood work done a minimum of every 6 months on these things you're talking about. And I'm so looking forward to talking to you about these things and I also had to get food intolerances checked out.
Yes.
Because that was another thing, the stress, the food intolerances, the vitamins, where am I lacking? And also as women, as we get older, like to check those levels. It's so crucial. And for men too, with their testosterone lowering. And I don't know as much about the men as I do what I've dissected for myself, but thank you for bringing this today. And another woman that I want to connect with.
Absolutely. We definitely have to connect after this. And you're stunningly gorgeous yourself. Everybody on here, just beautiful. And, when you're happy on the inside and when you've done a lot of work on yourself, it really shows, it really does. And I think everybody on here has done that. And I have to say there's a lot of children too being misdiagnosed and put on, methamphetamines and these harsh drugs when, you look at the diet of the American diet is horrific. Cereal, is not good for kids, especially if you're having what they call, ADD, ADHD, which is what they said I had. Get off the sugar, get off the gluten, get off the stuff that people don't realize that, yeah, you could be feeding your kid, there's orange juice, you've got a bowl of cereal, that's all turning into sugar, and some kids can handle it. Some kids are fine with it. Some kids can't focus. They start to have temper tantrums. They get angry. It is food-based, and there are a lot of food allergies nowadays. Get tested for that. Also, if your child is not sleeping properly, once again, can be diagnosed with mental illnesses, and it could just be sleep and vitamin deficiencies. So, sometimes it's that simple. Not always, but sometimes it is that simple. So I try and educate parents, to please go get your child, change the diet up. It might be hard, and there is a sugar addiction, and you might see some behavior that is hard to deal with, but get through the 2 weeks, the 3 weeks of the sugar addiction, and you might see a different child.
Kerry Kasem. Kerry, tell us the best way to get in touch with you so we can see all things Kerry Kasem.
I'm all over the internet, and I'm the only one and sometimes it takes a while to get to my DMs, but I'm the only one who answers people on Instagram and Facebook. Yeah, I don't let anybody answer for me. So, and if it takes a while, please do it. KerryKasem.com. You can find me there. You can find Kasem Cares there, where that is what you were talking about, where Tim, I absolutely adore you. You've helped so much with this. Kasem Cares is what I founded to pass legislation that curbs elder abuse in all forms of elder abuse, but isolation, because my father was isolated from us kids, his friends, his family, everybody who knew him. Literally, his phone was taken away, his staff was fired, gates were closed. We were told we weren't going to see him. And nobody knew in the United States of America that once you turn 18, you have no rights to see your parents if there's an uncooperative caretaker. Doesn't matter if it's a sibling, a wife, a husband, a second wife, a second husband. It could be a lawyer. They can keep you from your mom or dad, and then they can fleece everything, and they can stop visitation. And so my bill allows a judge to just rule on visitation without having an entire fight over guardianship, conservatorship, or power of attorney. And so, Tim, you've been helping with that. You spoke at my conference, and it's just been the last 7 years. That's probably one of the things I'm most proud of.
Okay, Kerry Kasem. All right, we're going to put all the information below. It's what Joseph's doing right now. Okay. Love you. You're amazing. What a great friend. That was awesome.
Bye, Hillary. Bye, everyone. Bye, Jason. Bye.
That was so good.
Thank you.
All right, on deck, Sharon Burnett, Dr. Sharon Burnett. Hello, Miss Dr. Sharon Burnett.
Hello, how are you?
Good to see you. I want to give you a proper introduction, okay, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
And you are a teacher, a mentor, a psychotherapist with over 35 years experience. That's a lot of experience, isn't it?
It is a lot of experience.
All right, well, let's just start there. As you are watching us so far, what are some thoughts going through your mind?
Well, a couple. First, I was dealing with my own trauma this morning. My internet went out about 15 minutes ago. So I'm calming down from my trauma, managing my anxiety. No, I really like the speakers and what everybody's addressing here and tying it to the current pandemic. I've been seeing in my practice and with my students a tremendous increase in anxiety. I think that was covered by Amy and one of the other presenters, but the anxiety is off the charts right now. I think there was a recent study with about 9,500 community college students of what their worries were right now during the pandemic. 72% reported anxiety.
Yes. So
Yes.
let me ask you a question. Is there really a remedy for anxiety?
Yes.
Is there a remedy, in your opinion, for anxiety?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, anxiety it's been discussed as the fight or flight syndrome that we all go through. It's our body being alert. It's awake. You know, we have anxiety. It says do something and look around. When we don't have something concrete to be afraid of, a car is going to veer in front of me. I need to do something. We have what's going on today with the constant disruptions, and there's nothing we can do. I can't fix it right now. there's nothing to be done, it creates a continual rush of fear, and anxiety. And when we've had past trauma, which majority of us have had, we also go into those old strategies and old stories. It's never going to be okay. It's all my fault. It's all somebody else's fault. So not only do we have fear that doesn't have a purpose, so we have all this adrenaline and stress hormones going on, we have stories from our past trauma that really mess with how we navigate through the world.
Okay, I'm going to have Jason Waller ask 1 or 2 questions, and then Hillary ask you questions about the type of work that you do and what you're finding out and how you can help all those that are viewing today.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jason.
All right, Sharon, so good to see you.
You too.
Another patriarch in her space. I can't tell you how many lives she's impacted, and I just really appreciate that you are here. But I think you just brought up a great proponent, you know, of what we're dealing with today, right? With so much anxiety within the space that we're in. And I would love to hear some coping tools that you think people could really utilize during this time, because again, as I know, well, let me just start there. I would love to just hear some therapeutic modalities and or tools people could do for anxiety at this current state.
Okay. Well, I think we've got a pretty good definition of anxiety. It's just this flood of emotion, fear, out of proportion. It's fear without a target. So there's a couple things we do. One of the presenters talked about grounding. That's the first thing. I use my breath to ground. Okay, it's always with us. We can just take a breath, take a breath, take a breath. That calms us physically. And then perhaps gives us some space to assess, is there a fear, is there a danger right now? And is there something I need to do about that danger? And that's where we can begin to engage the doing mind. Is there something I need to do? Well, I can vote. I can take care of my health. There's no immediate danger. I'm okay. So that kind of understanding the anxiety and checking in with yourself. Is there something I need to do right now? Not much. I can breathe.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to a friend of mine briefly this morning who, I guess it's a joke, but told me, the morning and evening prayers that she does. And I said, I'm going to steal that for this morning. The morning prayer to God is whatever. And the evening prayer is, oh, well.
Love it.
So it's that prepare me for whatever's going to go on and give me the wisdom to figure out, is there something I need to do? And often what I need to do is just calm myself down. Whatever's going to come my way, I'm going to breathe through it. If there's something I need to do, get out of the way, protest, I'm going to do that. If not, then my job is to calm myself down so I don't make myself sick. Wonderful. And I don't infect others with my anxiety. The oh well is, I've done the best I can today.
Would you treat anxiety and fear as the same?
No. Fear is a very natural emotion. It's hardwired into us for surviving. It gives us that adrenaline. There's a bear coming after me. I recognize that I see it. I'm going to get out of here. Okay. It's a survival mechanism. When we're, in the forest and we're scared of bears, okay, there's something we can do. We can be cautious. When we're in the forest and we're afraid of sharks, it's probably anxiety. Okay. When we're afraid of something that isn't in the moment, okay, it's the past or it's something that might happen, that becomes this fear. Anxiety is the distortion of fear. It becomes this ongoing, something's wrong.
So I have a question then. Mm-hmm. In the state that we're in, why do you think suicide is so high today compared to just a year ago?
I haven't read the statistics on that. I'm not sure if it's, significantly higher, but I do know a lot more people are feeling that there's nothing else I can do. I may as well die. It's that place of there's nothing else to do. It's a doing thing.
Right.
I'm going to get out of here. It's a place of utter hopelessness.
And how much of that ties into isolation though? Because it's much, I don't know the exact numbers, but it's much higher than it was last year.
Oh yes, especially with the pandemic, it's doing one of two things. It's putting everybody in forced togetherness, or forcing people to be isolated. You know, and as you and I have talked about before, that opposite of addiction is connection. Also, the opposite of depression is connection. And we need that connection so much. That's why I love the idea of this panel. We need that connection.
I love it. Hillary, hit her with one.
Well, some of you that don't know, we had her on our podcast, and I love how you talked about trauma being the loss, having early death, you know, suffering loss early in life, and that was your trauma. And I just absolutely love that, because a lot of people say, oh, I can just get over this. And that's just, you know, my own father, with a lot of this stuff that happened with his anger. He lost his mother when he was 3, and just kept trying to cope. He's never gotten help for that. And so, and it bleeds out. It's again, and what you're doing to help so many people with the anxiety, with the grounding. I mean, you were so powerful with our podcast. And if you all haven't listened to it, go back to Let the Journey Begin and listen to that Red Songbird podcast. But Dr. Sharon, you are absolutely amazing. And I thank you so much for being on here.
You're welcome.
Dr. Sharon, how can you find out more about what you're doing? Do you have a website, or what's the best way?
I have a website for a nonprofit that I've started 10 years ago. It's westvalleycounseling.org. Right now, I do a lot of teaching and supervising of other therapists. We are engaged in a lot of community and grassroots projects right now for long-term care recovery. We're affiliated with a number of groups that are doing trauma recovery, post-pandemic recovery, civil justice. We're addressing a lot of issues. So it's westvalleycounseling.org.
Okay, beautiful. Just because of time, I want to ask you maybe 60-second parting shot, something that's in your spirit, in your mind, that you would just like to share with all of us that are watching.
60 seconds. I'm going to tag back to part of the podcast when I talk about what trauma, it's disruption without repair. And we're in a giant disruption right now. Nobody's in charge. We're in a disruption. And so one of it is know we're in the middle of this disruption, kind of like in the middle of a dark cave. There is a light. I don't think we quite see it yet, but there is that light. And so my advice is to be able to, you know, trust our own resilience. We will get through this. Remember to breathe and be kind.
I love that. And you did that in 60 seconds.
Damn, excuse me.
So much better than the current president and the former vice president. They're given a minute and they go 4 minutes. So you did fantastic. Yeah.
It's the kindness and the breathing.
Exactly. All right.
You guys.
Sharon Burnett. Fantastic.
Thank you so much, Sharon.
All right. I'll see you again soon. Bye, Hillary.
Bird Foundation Virtual Health Summit, and share because you care. We got 2 amazing guests. These guys are always on time. These guys are always on time. These guys are brothers. They hang out a lot. Brent Bolthouse threw a huge Super Bowl party a couple years ago, and we had me and Dylan McDermott. That was our party. It was just us 3.
It was a good party.
Jason, we would have invited you, but we didn't have your number.
Yeah, I see how it is. Brent, I'm hurt now, man.
Jason, you're always welcome.
So good to see you guys. Thank you for
brother
joining.
from another mother.
Let me give the proper introduction.
My sober mother.
Jason, I'm going to have you interview Brent a little bit, and Dylan. We're going to work together. But Brent Bolthouse is an American entrepreneur. That's an understatement. I went with him as he taught in the School of Business at USC and blew them away and blew me away. He is very, very into the world of being a humanitarian, works with ARC, which is prison reform, many other places where he builds people up. So that is just a little bit of a page of Brent Bolthouse. Dylan McDermott, one of the best actors of our time, no doubt about it. Got so caught up in his last series on Netflix, Hollywood.
He got robbed. He got robbed.
I'm telling you, man, he just went there. He went there all the way on that. And he's been an actor for a lot of years. Earned him a Golden Globe Award, Best Performance by an Actor, Television Series. And Dylan Mcdermott is just a good man, cares about people, understands addiction, sobriety, and also the other side, that we can get to the other side. So let's welcome Brent Bolthouse and Dylan McDermott with a big ovation.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yes, awesome.
Jason,
This is so fun.
question first. I'm going to start with you, Jason. Go at him.
Yeah, of course. No, I mean, first of all, guys, thank you so much for taking the time. You know, we're here wanting to spread the message of hope and giving people that connection and relatability. And I think with that, you know, there's a lot of people on here that I know that struggle with substance abuse, right? That goes, I think, hand in hand with mental health. And I'd love to hear, you know, your guys' perspective on what you're doing to take care of your mental health, you know, in correlation with, you know, sobriety.
Are you asking both of us or one of us?
Both of you or whoever. Let's go with you, Brent. I'm going to go with you first.
Obviously, I mean, you know, I've been sober for 33 years now.
Unbelievable.
Maybe I have 33 in November. I forget. I got to do some math. It's a long time. You know, but I think what the amazing thing about today is, in this time in the world, is that so many things have evolved. You know, I work out every day. I just finished the 2-hour garage crushing workout on the assault bike, Want to Die. And, you know, just the way that a nutrition and what we can do with our bodies to keep ourselves grounded in our bodies. Like she was talking about grounding, but I'm like, go stand on the grass and take your shoes off, right? Real grounding is super powerful. You know, and so I was talking to, you know, I tore my labia, and I've been talking to my physical therapist, who's this functional movement guy that does all these things and works with golfers and baseball players and all this stuff. And I was like, all of this stuff that you're talking about wasn't around 10 years ago. It was like push harder, jump faster, squat deeper. And they didn't care about functional movement. Today, there's a whole entire functional movement program that can take you farther and deeper into a physical program and not injure yourself in the process, right? And I think it's the same with nutrition. Like I'm working with this guy now, and he has a whole thing that Monday is the most stressful day of the week, right? That's just in our bodies, and that's just the clock, the way we're wired, a clock within our system. And so what he does is he gives you a little bit of a dietary thing where he says he gives you a certain kind of food on Sunday night. You eat a certain way on Sunday, so your cortisol goes lower on Monday. So then the stress kicks in naturally, because it's a stressful day, that you don't hit the peak of stress that you normally would hit. Your cortisol's a little more regulated. And that's just because of the science and the information that's out there in the world today. So you can go deep, deep, deep into a rabbit hole. And I think the first and foremost is like, you have to look at your health, your nutrition, what you're putting in your bodies. Are you getting the right minerals? We have no minerals in our system today. And minerals play such a huge part. I literally have a super good friend of mine who's like a marketing genius was like, I can't sleep, but I don't know what's going on. I said, take a little CBD at night, take some magnesium. And she's like, well, I never take magnesium. I was like, just do it. Magnesium is a mineral that we need 100,000 functions in the body need it. She took it and she was like, in 2 days, she's like, my sleep is normal. I was like, yeah, because we just don't get the things that we used to get 100 years ago in the soil. So I think you start there, right? I think you have to look at all those areas, because if you just like solve your problems in your brain of your thinking, but if your body chemistry is completely out of whack, you still might be producing more cortisol than you're supposed to because you're not regulating that, right? And you have to see a functional medicine doctor to kind of find that. You can't just go to a normal doctor because they're going to run a blood panel and say, you're perfect. And you're like, but I'm stressed. I can't sleep. I don't feel good. They're like, you're perfect. So you kind of just have to go. And the truth is, we have a thing called the interweb. I know it's this concept that's new, but you got all the information you need out there. You just need to find some people, you know, like I promote Ben Greenfield because I think he's one of the smartest guys out there that does a lot of things with nutrition and ideas and thinks differently. Is he a doctor? No, he'll tell you that. But you know what? He's an intense studier and reads all the literature and checks the T's and dots the I's and thinks about how do you do something differently for optimal performance, right? And so I think when we're talking about mental health, it's like, well, are you willing to go to any lengths? I was willing to go to any lengths to get sober. I'm willing to go to any lengths to stay happy in this time. And I'm willing to go to any lengths to get sleep at night. And I have this new practice that I've been doing. My day starts when I go to sleep. It doesn't start the next morning, because if I don't get a good night's sleep, I have a shitty next day.
Wow.
So it's just like changing the way you think. Like this is the beginning of my day tonight. If I go to bed at midnight and I get up at 5:30 with my son, I'm cruising slow that day. But if I go to bed at 9:30 and I get 7-8 hours of good sleep, the next day it's like, everything changes, right? So it's just how we have been trained, you know, and this is the stuff our parents never told us, because they're from a different generation. And we've got these new kids that can come up with, you know, all this stuff. You know, it's going to be amazing to see what the kids do.
100%. And I think one of the biggest things that you take away, like a takeaway, is people need to understand is your brain produces more potent chemicals than heroin. You just got to let it work. And that's through exercise, through natural highs, you know, your endorphins, letting those things go. I mean, a lot of the things that you're saying is exactly what I do in implementation around this. But even the grounding, I actually just heard this the other day, is going outside and putting your feet in the dirt, putting your feet in the sand, putting your feet in the grass, wherever it may be. And there's actually a lot of minerals that your feet can absorb when you're actually doing that. So there's very beneficial factors to that. But the last question I have for both of you, you know, for Brent and Dylan, is I see a lot of the importance of human connection, and you're a product of your environment, right? And that can play hand in hand with a lot of your mood. That's at least something I've experienced. And I was wondering if both of you can relate to that, with the people that you surround yourself with as well can play a detrimental role in your mental health.
Dylan, take it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they always say in the program, people, places, and things, right? That you can't hang out with certain people, you can't go to certain places, and you can't do certain things if you want to stay sober. So you can't, for instance, you can't go to the bar if you want to stay sober, right? You can't hang out with the bad dudes if you want to stay sober. And you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again if you want to stay sober. So I try to surround myself with people who are like-minded and going to keep me on the track of this life, where I don't have to destroy myself. Because, you know, addiction is really about destroying yourself on every level. And how do I stay away from that on a daily basis, is try to, number one, you know, stay in a spiritual place. That's always my go-to in this world, is to try to remember why I'm here, what's my purpose, and how do I stay away from negative self-talk, which is the biggest part of all this, you know, because that's what's going to drive you back out to do drugs and alcohol. So, you know, it's a daily reprieve. Yes. Daily reprieve.
Dylan, I have a question for you. You know, when I look at the last series you're on with Netflix, and in knowing you have so much peace in you, but to play that role, you had to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So when you go somewhere else as an actor, does it affect you once you come out of that role that you're playing? How can you go from that peaceful place to then now having to become that person in that role?
Well, you know, I look at it as like a vacation. When I get to disappear into, you know, that guy I played, Ernie West, who was, you know, smoking all the time and doing drugs, or I play a serial killer, or I played Peter Gatien. I don't know if you remember who he was. He was the head of Nightlife in New York.
Peter Gatien.
Yeah, so I played him once, and he was holed up in a hotel room. He would literally call it a vacation, and he would go into a hotel for a week and just get high. Mm-hmm. So I look at those things as, okay, well, you know, it's a reprieve from my life for a second, but I'm not actually getting high, but I'm playing a character that is. So it's a win-win. You know what I mean? And then I let it go. I go back into the real world. I remember, you know, it's very hard, I think, for addicts to stay in the present, to stay in the now, and to kind of like take whatever this is and enjoy it. Because, you know, everybody's looking for a mood change, whatever that is. If it's Instagram, everybody's looking for a mood change all the time. You know, get me away from here. whatever this is right now, right here, I don't want to be here. I want to be over there. You
Yeah.
know, that's where everybody wants to be. Everybody wants to be over there, wherever there is. And when they're there, they want to be back here.
Yeah.
So we're never here. And I think that this teaches us to be in the now, to be in the here.
I like that. I'm going to have Hillary ask you a question in a minute to either one of you. But Dylan, because I know you're a thinker, dude, for you, what's the difference between peace and happiness? And is happiness better than peace?
Oh, peace. Well, I think that peace is happiness. That's the only thing, my only desire in this life is to have peace, honestly. I think that, you know, this is a family disease. It starts very young. And, you know, you have to be so vigilant in terms, you have to have so much discipline to stay away from the darkness.
So true. Wow.
Which is always there, always waiting, always seductive, always talking to you. So I think that the discipline really is, you know, keeping yourself in the light as much as you can, you know, staying in the light, staying with the right people, as we talked about initially, you know, being in the right places. Really, you have to be, I mean, really, you really have to protect yourself in this life. You know, I didn't know that until I got a little bit older, but it's a very big deal. You know, you have to have protection in this life because there are the forces of darkness always grabbing at you.
Yeah, and that's one reason the community is so important.
Yes.
And the reason why we're doing what we're doing. So Hillary, any questions to either Brent or to Dylan?
First of all, thank you to both of you for being here today. So appreciate it. So appreciate it. I'm 23 years sober, May 9th of 97. I have a date. I know it. And I hold on to that bad boy because it took forever to get there. But Brent, thank you for all that you shared. I want to clarify for our listeners that there's a girl that came with me to a particular recovery meeting, and anyway, she felt like she was sober taking CBD oil with THC. So I want to clarify that it's CBD without the THC when you were mentioning that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's CBD without THC. And I don't even know if CBD oil with THC actually even gets into your system and gets you high. I don't know if it functions that way. So I'm not a doctor or a chemist, but I know that like a lot of CBD oil that's out there that has like such a minute trace of THC. I mean, the way I look at my own life is if I was getting high with CBD oil, I would drink it all this whole supply in LA because that's what it would take to get me high. Like I was smoking some chronic, crazy Snoop Dogg, put you to sleep kind of stuff. And like, I wasn't going for the CBD oil. Like, if that's your slip, like, I don't know if you're a real addict. I'm just letting you know. Like, you know what I mean? You should always be cautious. And I always say this to people because I'm a firm believer in the program that you know, the only rule in any of those programs is the desire to stop drinking or using. That's the only rule. And so if you have to take some sort of substance outside of that, like you talk to your sponsor, you talk to your group of people, and you don't keep it in the shadow world, right? And you run it by a few people. And if they think it's okay, then you're okay. Because sometimes if you get hurt and you have to take pain medication, you got to just keep that on the up and up. No secrets, right? Because I think that's the place where it gets slippery. And that's where things happen. The shadow world, like Dylan was talking about, like we love the shadow world. Like I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm supposed to take 2 a day, and now I took 3, and now I took 4. And then you don't tell anybody that you took 3 or 4. Now you got a problem because now you have a lie, and then you don't want to lie to your friends, and then you have some guilt and shame, and then this circle happens, and suddenly you're in this guilt and shame world, and suddenly you know you really do have a slip, or you die, or you OD, right? I've seen that happen to many, many friends of mine that were just, you know, couldn't really tell you what was going on with them. They kept it a secret, and then they died behind that secret. So, but, you know, like I said, I take CBD oil, and I take it on a regular basis for sleep, and it really helps me. And so I think it's okay. But again, if you have a sponsor or you have friends in the program, run everything past them. That's the safest way you can be, because I also know that some of my best thinking, sober and not sober, has got me into boatloads of trouble. So always double check with a buddy.
I absolutely love that. I love that. You know, it's important that we guard ourselves if we go through surgeries or anything like that. My sponsor and my doctor are like together. And then one last thing for Dylan. I love how you said you always have to be diligent. But do you find that the longer you have stayed sober, implementing this foundation of this unshakable foundation for life that we've been given, it's a lot easier than like when you're brand new and, you know, having those cravings, if you had cravings, but don't you find that it's easier now?
You know, I think it morphs into something else. I think that, you know, I watched my father after 17 years drink 2 quarts of vodka right away, as if he never was sober. I've seen many people go out after 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. And the trouble is you go right back to where you were from the last drink. And that's why people end up dying, because your system can't take it. But the whole time you're sober, you know, every sober person has a fantasy about what it would be like if they ever went out again. They keep that, you know, we keep it in a little storage container. What does it all look like? You know, it's different for everybody. But I do know that because that is working on me, I have to be hyper vigilant about that to protect myself, because you can always come up with a scenario where things are better. And that includes drinking, that includes getting high. So that's why you have to go to meetings. That's why you have to read. That's why you have to do a 4th step. That's why you have to study the steps. That's why you have to stay in the program. You know, there are many people over time who, you know, have gone to 7 meetings a week, and then it's 3 meetings a week, and then it's 1 meeting a week, and then it's 1 meeting a month, and then it's 1 meeting a year, and then they stop going. I've never heard anyone say to me that after they went to a meeting, they went out and drank. Right? I've never heard that story. And I've never heard somebody say, because I always ask people when they go out, because I want to know,
yeah,
what was it like? And I've never heard someone say to me in my 36 years of being sober, no one ever said to me, oh man, it was amazing. No one's ever said it. I've searched high and wide for that person that said, oh dude, you got to try it. It doesn't exist. It's always a horror story. They've always lost everything, you know? So I know what the fact is, it's not better out there. You know,
wow.
I just have to get a better relationship with myself. That's the real answer. You know, whatever that relationship is, always needs work, always needs compassion. So that's where I come from usually.
Okay, so last thing, because we're moving through this program, and thank you both for your time.
Of course.
Extremely busy gentlemen. Brent, can you help us? For all those that are watching, is it possible to get better? There's a lot of people that feel like they're in the dark hole. Is it possible to get better?
Yeah, of course. I mean, yes. I think it's like I said, there's so much information out there of, if you want to find hope, you can find hope, right? Like in my early days of becoming an entrepreneur and a businessman and early days of sobriety, like, you know, I found Tony Robbins. I listened to his books on tape, cassette tape, if anyone knows what that is. And like, one of the things he always said was like, if you're at the gym, put positive things in your brain. Always put positive things in your subconscious mind, right? And so I started devouring books on people that succeeded. And what I found in everyone's success story, I don't care who it was there were moments of like almost failure. If it was Abraham Lincoln, like running for office like 37 times before he got elected, right? Or if it was like Ford betting everything he had to make an engine that didn't work 16 times, right? If it's the Hershey chocolate factory that was just, every story is just you kind of have that, right? And I think that's what people are forgetting about this moment in time, right? It is a moment in time. And if you think about how long we've been on the planet, and if you think how old this planet really is, the planet doesn't give a shit about this moment in time, because we're talking billions of years old, right? And so, and I think there's this thing that no one talks about in the media where it is, but it's like, this time is a lesson. It's meant to teach us something, right? Corona is our teacher. And what does our teacher have to teach us? Nobody likes, and this isn't an addict thing. I think in general, the human condition is most people don't like to be alone, and they don't like to be in that inner dialogue with themselves. And they have a hard time sitting on their hands and being in the moment. They love work distractions. They love family distractions. They love affair affections. They love shopping distractions. They love porn distractions. Whatever that thing is, we are a world full of distractions, right? And I think what you're seeing is this anxiety coming up in people is like, how do you take this time? You can either take this time and grow, or you can take this time and not grow. And the winners are going to grow, and they're going to look at this and be like, wow, that time was terrible. But you know what? I got so much out of it. I learned how to meditate. I learned how to work out more. I learned how to change the way I eat, because I wasn't running to work, or I was on the road eating fast food every day. I'm now cooking food for myself. Like it's just all about your perception. And so how do you take this moment and hug it as opposed to fight it, right? I don't care who wins the presidency. It doesn't matter. It really does not matter, right? Someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. And 4 years will pass, and 4 years goes by really fast, and something will shift, right? But what we can do, every person listening to this can make a little bit of a change in their community, in their selves, right? Like if it's like, you got to love Jesus. He's like, you got to pull that telephone pole out of your own eye before you can get the splinter out of your friend's finger. You know what I mean? It's like, so if you can't do that, it's like getting on the airplane, put the mask on yourself and then put the mask on your child. Because if you die, the child's going to die too, right? So it's just like that simple things. If we can just look at this from a different perspective and move into gratitude as opposed to fear, you're already moving into a higher vibration, right? Gratitude is a much higher vibration.
And Dylan, that's why he's running for public office. Brent Bull.
Yeah.
Okay, Dylan, parting shots, thoughts on your mind, anything you want to share? A lot of people are going to watch this over the period of
Sure.
days.
Well, I guess the bottom line is we accept the love we think we deserve.
Yeah, wow.
Right? And if you don't think you deserve love, then it's a battle. If you think you deserve a little love, it's still going to be a battle. So it's trying to find that place inside of yourself that really likes yourself, just likes yourself, gives yourself a break. Have some compassion for yourself. If you're struggling out there, which I'm sure there are many, many people are, and we've all struggled on this Zoom, there's always a chance. There's always a chance to have a better life. There's always a chance to have love. There's always a chance to, get sober and to have a life. That certainly was my case, I have no business being here today. I come from a place where I should have been dead a long time ago. And, because I had the discipline to stay sober, and because I showed up for myself and I had some divine intervention, I've been able to put all these years together and have a life and be a father and to show up for them and to love somebody else. I didn't know how to love until I had kids. And then they taught me how to love. So I believe that anything is possible. Anything is possible when you're sober.
Dylan McDermott, Brent Bolthouse, thank you, gentlemen, very, very much.
So much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for doing this. It's amazing what you're doing. So
Yeah.
thank you for your service.
Have a great day. Thank you.
All right, bye guys.
Nice.
Love you. Hey, Jason, just because, you know, you being a strong man and also in the entertainment industry, how did that touch you with Brent and Dylan? That was pretty cool stuff, right?
That was, I mean, I connected so deeply, and I learned a lot from that. I mean, what I take away from that too is the structure that they've established is a sense of peace. You know, structure creates safety. Structures, I mean, that's what I'm learning now, having a young child. But both of them are a great example of what hard work can do. And I'm talking about from a mental and emotional standpoint. I mean, what I really took away from Brent was resilience. You know, resilience is so important, to never give up. You know, and I just think that a lot of people out there that are going through a hard time, you know, you're not alone. There is a way out. There is a solution. And I think the first step from what I'm taking away from those guys is the connection and communication. You know, don't give up.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, our next guest you are going to really learn from. Dr. Colleen Hawthorne has been a very dear friend of mine for many, many years. She is a doctor. She is a psychiatrist. And she has written an amazing book that we'll talk about a little later, about living this amazing, vibrant life. But I'm going to bring you right on, Dr. Colleen Hawthorne. Good to have you on this summit.
You, Tim, so great to be with you. And this is an amazing, amazing summit. So powerful, just what we need in these times.
Okay, give me one little thing you've learned so far by any of the guests that have dialogued so far.
One thing, Tim? Are you kidding?
One.
Well, you know, I am so pleased that, you know, we're talking about, we have real people here talking about their lives and really the importance of the brain, mind, body connection.
Yes.
That's key. And when we're talking about destigmatizing mental health, that is the key, to really teach the truth about this, that all of this has to do with our bodies and what's going on chemically, and what do we do to keep that chemistry in the balance that allows us to live most happy, healthy, clear, you know, most optimally in life. So I'm so pleased to hear that coming up, and am excited to say more about that as we move forward.
The Dr. Colleen Hawthorne, she deals in a lot of areas and spaces, but she also helps me with a lot of entertainers, high profile, that are beyond where I am because of your 25 years of work in this space. And you have really helped so many of my friends, not just get through, to just survive, but to really find the freedom that Hillary and Jason are talking about. So I'm going to give it to Hillary first. Anything you'd like to ask Dr. Colleen Hawthorne, and believe me, she is like walking in a library and there's 2,000 books. So she knows. What would you like to ask her? And you are muted again, Miss Hillary.
Sorry, Myrna was helping me plug the computer and I realized I was running out of power. I'm like, come help me, please. Dr. Hawthorne, I am so happy you're here. I want to ask you something. What if you've heard a little bit of me sharing today, and if there were any tools that you would give me? I'm 23 years sober, gone through all this trauma stuff. You know, I'm constantly in the spiritual classroom of life, and I'm never going to be, you know, I'm never going to rise above being human, but I want things that can help me become a better vessel on this planet. So what would be some things, if we were talking one-on-one, that you would give to me?
Yeah. Hillary, first, thank you for this invitation. You are amazing. Your history is amazing. What you're doing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I would say, and will say, continue to do exactly what you're doing. What you're doing in terms of using your experiences, your history, to help others to really get better, to let them see, look, we're all human here trying to get through this life. Oftentimes, you know, folks will look at people like you, like us, you know, leaders, and think, wow, well, they have it all together. Not at all. We are all human. We're all going through life experiences. We all have brains and bodies that respond to all of these things we're doing. So when folks like you put together a panel like this to reach people on all levels, it's so powerful. And then it helps you to really stay healthy yourself, right? And a lot of that is chemical. You're doing this new, innovative, wonderful thing that brings you joy. That's not just magic happening that you feel more uplifted. Dopamine, there are lots of chemicals in our system, and one of them is dopamine that just loves novelty and new. And that increases our dopamine level, right? Natural antidepressant. So that's one of the things. Keep doing what you are doing in terms of reaching out and helping others in innovative, creative, and novel ways. The other, I would say, it's very clear that you are surrounded by some very vibrant people. And that is the key. That is so central, right? I always say what we ingest, the people, places, spaces, the nutrition folks talk about, that impacts totally our mood, our sleep, our attitude. And so those people that you surround yourself with that really help you to feel uplifted and motivated and keep you creative, that is absolutely the key. And conversely, those folks that don't, you don't feel that joy, that organicity, then those people, you kind of limit the time that you spend with them. It's critical to our health.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And, for anybody listening, I made a big mistake right before we started. I'm not going to get into what it was, but I was just like, oh, a huge mistake. And then I go into self-flagellation, and I had to just forgive myself. And so I could be in the present, like you guys were talking about. But it was like I was horrified by this mistake I made, and still am a bit, but I'm in the moment and doing my thing. And, we're human, but we are given this amazing life. But please, thank you so much for being part of our panel today, and thank you for that word.
Really good answer, Dr. Colleen. Jason Waller, look at that gold mine you have, Dr. Colleen Hawthorne.
Yeah.
He lives in the Washington, D.C. area. Imagine who she works with without me saying too much.
Just the way I can already tell this, the way she speaks. Thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure to meet you, and it's an honor. I have a question for you, because something that really triggered me in the last two panelists, I don't know if you were here if you heard what Brent, and especially towards the end, is Brent was talking that we live in a distracted society, which really resonated, right? And it's a false sense of reality almost. And there's a quote that I came up is, there is no normality in escaping reality. And I look out there, and there's so much drugs, and there's so much alcohol sales, everything's up so much, right? And in this time, why do people always want to escape?
A lot of that is our human nature. It's kind of how we are wired, but we've also kind of encouraged that behavior. And what we have to do, we're talking about being healthier, and that's really the key to this whole thing. We've got to look at the things we've been doing that aren't working, call it out for what it is, and let's get to solutions that really help. The distractions, the divisiveness, those things are unhealthy and toxic, period. And so we talk about, well, what's driving the anxiety and suicide? These things are a lot simpler if we really think about it. And the panelists were saying that, then we're making this out to be, right? When you're around division and divisiveness, that increases chemicals in the body, that absolutely increases anxiety. It interferes with sleep, mood. These are chemical things, that happen in the body. And so we have really got to call this out. And that's why I so appreciate what you guys are doing. Folks will listen to you guys first, because you're real, right? And if we want to use celebrity, because that's what folks listen to, this is awesome. This is what we need to get people's attention. You bring on other people, and we do this collectively in creative, fun, energizing ways. That's how people learn. That's how you really hit their heart and soul and let them know, look, help is out there, right? We're all in this together. What do I need to do to just start the process? This is so powerful.
Well, I think you bring up a huge point is we're not doing this alone. We're doing this together. And the last thing, Tim, is okay if I ask one more question, is I want to talk about millennials. I have a lot of nephews. I have a little 3-year-old. She's, thank God, she's still kind of in her little zone with us, and she's not, she's still young enough. But something that I've looked at, I'm even kind of turning to the thought process of social media is antisocial. And again, is there could be, there's great and again, technology, there's many things that it can be created for the common good, right? But I feel like we're seeing the suicide rate in adolescents go up particularly. How much do you feel that the isolation, because I feel like this from my generation to the younger generation, just from the connection, the outside playing, sports and doing different things, I feel like a lot of them are removed now. I mean, video games, social media, you go to dinner and you see all these kids that they're not having connection with their families. I mean, it's everywhere. Can you just talk about that a little bit and the impact that is making?
Sure. I say that we are more connected than ever electronically and through technology, yet we're more disconnected in terms of those real cell-to-soul connections that really bring what everyone really wants. That's how we're created. You want real connection that makes a difference, that creates meaning. We want joy and love. Those things only come from deep cell-to-soul connections, right? And so through social media, at least the way we're using it, we're not getting to, I think, what can be a real brilliant opportunity to connect even more deeply than ever, even during this time of the pandemic. So we talk about social distancing. I prefer to say physical distancing. We don't want to be socially distanced, yeah. Physical distance so we can stay healthy, right? But we can use this time as an opportunity to be real creative. How do I virtually connect with people in new ways? Okay, I'm exercising. Say, hey, Tim, what time are you exercising? Let's do this together.
Yes.
Right? And so even with the social media, I see oftentimes we've gotten into this thing about talking about things and people and others in their lives. Let's turn this thing around and use it more as an empowering tool. Talk about your life, great, because that helps people to live better, like we're doing here, in fun, healthy ways. So they want to tune in.
I love it.
Deep down, people don't really want this divisiveness. We are that's what you're attuned to listening to. We need folks like you all to show everyone how to do it fun. Look at all the knowledge shared here today with these amazing actors, actresses, singers, doctors, in a fun way. I'm so jazzed up, right? My dopamine level's way high because I'm with good people talking about real things to help us improve and doing it in a way that's fun and alive and creative.
Okay, Dr. Colleen Hawthorne, she has a new book that I am using on many of my clients, and it's called Vibrant Life Success. All right?
Copy.
So, Dr. Hawthorne, best way Jason and everyone else can get their copy. How do we do that?
Easiest way is probably to go to my website. It's simply Dr. Colleen Hawthorne, Dr. Dr. ColleenHawthorne.com. We've got lots of goodies there, and you can connect with me right through the website on Facebook and Instagram, and also reach out to me in various ways if you want to connect. I do a lot of coaching of top performers, industry icons at this time. So there are ways right on the website you can reach me if you want to do some work together. Thanks, Tim.
Okay. Give her a big clap, Dr. Colleen Hawthorne. Thank you for being on today.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So we are right on time. And before I bring on our good friend, Dr. Daniel Hendrick, I'm going to talk a little bit about the opportunity to give to our foundation that is making a change in people's lives. As you know, the story, Hillary Roberts really believed that she downloaded something, I believe, from God. And that is to not just present awareness, but solutions, and help people to have action steps in their life that will not just give them a better life, but for some to actually save their lives. And that is what's happening with the Red Songbird Foundation. We are changing lives on purpose. She went to one of the best persons she could have gone to, and that is Jason Waller. Because not only does he understand as a person that is working through the struggle and getting the best of it through proper help, proper training, conditioning, mindset, he has brought to the foundation just amazing connections where we are making giant changes, from seminars like this to one-on-one coaching that we're doing, to scholarshiping people to get them into addiction centers, to just helping people all around. And we're working on our own conference that will come in November. So we're going to give you a chance to give. And I do believe that 100% of you want to be a contributor. You want to be a sponsor. Could you imagine that you can sponsor someone else's change? You could sponsor today some family's comeback, because if the father gets better, the whole household can get better. If the mother gets better, the whole household can get better. Now, let me give you a few reasons why people give. Number one, they give because they believe in the mission. So we have given you what our mission is about. And I'll tell you right now, you believe in this mission of helping to change people's lives. The second reason they give is they give because they want to see the impact. Well, the impact you're seeing right now. You're hearing the different stories of people's lives that have been changed by what the Red Songbird Foundation is doing. The third reason, and we'll stop here today, people give because they have a personal connection to the cause. And that's why all of us are involved today, because I have a family that struggles with mental health condition. It started in my father, it was in my uncles, it's been in our family. We've all had to fight through depression. And I looked for remedies. I found people like Jason Waller and other people to help build my life up. And so one reason people give is that they have a personal connection to the cause. So do you have a personal connection to the cause? I would say yes. So here's what I want to say to you. As you give today, what you make happen for someone else, life will make happen for you. For some of you, you'll give out of your sacrifice, and that is, you might say, I'm going to give $100 or $500 or $1,000. For some, you're giving out of your surplus. You have the money there. But no matter what amount you give, whether it's 1,000, 500, whatever the amount it is, even if it's $20, $30, $40, could you imagine if we had 100% giving, 100% giving of all the different people's lives? We are going to give a life lift. Be a life lifter with us today. All the information is below, okay? All the information is below. Be a life lifter today. And when you give, we are going to give you a special gift back, and just saying to you, thank you for being a blessing to other people, okay? And I know 100% of you will give. People always say, Tim, you are good at getting people to respond. You know why? Because I hang out with intelligent people, and intelligent people pay it forward. So let's pay it forward and build people up. Jason, before I have you introduce Dr. Daniel Hedrick, tell us about how that excited you about the possibility of being a giver.
Well, thank you so much, Tim, for giving that great explanation of it. I've seen this firsthand. I've seen what it does to the families and the people that receive this help. I see the people that get educated to be able to find out what trauma is, what mental health is, find out how they're struggling with addiction, or if they are struggling with addiction, and what steps they can take to adequately get help, and a direction to take. And to see hundreds of people that we've impacted and to see the thousands of people that we've touched, it's incredible. I mean, we've made this our life mission. That's what we're doing. 93% of these proceeds go to the cause. We have some things that we have to do to run and operate these things, but to be able to have these types of seminars, to be able to provide the types of educations, and to do that, we need monies to put forth towards that. We contribute ourselves. I mean, we believe in what we're doing, but more importantly is we see the actual change. We see the change happening, and we can't do this alone. I mean, battling mental health, substance abuse, and trauma, it's much bigger than just our organization, 5 other organizations. It's going to take an army. But the conversation starts now, and I'm sick and tired of getting calls every day for people not having a direction to go. Every single day, there's people reaching out that don't know where to go because they don't have the resources, they don't have the means, they don't have the education. If we can change that, and starting with education, and providing insight, education, and the solution, that's what we do here.
I love it. So I'm going to ask if B. Taylor will come on at the same time. Can you come on at the same time as Dr. Daniel Hendrick? And good to see you.
Hey, how you guys doing?
World Shaker.
Both world shakers on here.
Yes. So Jason, you're so familiar with them. I mean, I have all these things on paper. I've had the opportunity to be around Dr. Daniel, amazing human being, studying on B. Taylor, amazing human being. We have 10 more minutes left in this whole summit because we want to end right on time because that's our promise to people. Come with us for 2 hours. We have 10 minutes. So Jason, I'm going to have you lead this last interview. B. Taylor, stay on. We're gonna interview them both at one time. And Jason, let's start with Dr. Daniel.
Yeah, Dr. Hedrick. Oh man, so good to see you. Thank both of you for being here. But Dr. Daniel Hedrick has been instrumental in my life personally. He knows my family very well. He's worked. He's an ASAM certified doctor. He has been in the space of addiction for 35 plus years. He's detoxed over 20,000 people. He was the heads of multiple hospitals in the substance abuse space. He's somebody I look up to. He's a patriarch in the Orange County area, a man that is, I don't know if he's a fish or a human. He swims every day in the ocean. He also is a man that wants to change the word sobriety, because I agree with him. And Dan, I kind of want to kick that off with you because that's something that I'm preaching now. And you've set that up for me is Dr. Hedrick has changed. The word sober is kind of a bland thing. And I think a life in recovery is a lot more than sobriety. And you instilled that in me. And I was thinking we could share that with the audience of what sobriety's really done for us.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. It's a misperception about, well, if you're sober, you're going to be dull and boring and average. I think that stops a lot of people from going for it. And it's quite the opposite. And you can tell with people just like Jason, you were kind of a maniac drug user, but now you're a maniac sober person. That's the goal, to be out there and eccentric and quirky and weird and authentic and intuitive, expressing yourself naturally high, far higher than you could get with a chemical. So you're the example. And I think this is a perfect timing today for me to be here because I run a treatment center and I have a patient that just got a scholarship from Red Songbird. And I just told her yesterday, she happens to be a woman of color. She's got 2 weeks sobriety. She's on fire. We're fighting with insurance. We're getting dead ends. And you guys pulled through and gave her 2 weeks. Yesterday, she was just sobbing because she was so excited. And it's working. I mean, I saw her this morning on my way here. She's like doing yoga with her dog under a tree at the treatment center, naturally high, just really, so thankful and grateful. It's amazing. I'm almost crying myself right now. But the other term too about sober, the other term that's misleading is epidemic. They've been using opioid epidemic and chemical dependency epidemic. That term really has gone negative. It's really a term that is associated with the attitude of being contagious or dirty or infected or dangerous. And we've been fighting that for a long time. Right when science is starting to replace a lot of the fear and ignorance and superstition about addiction, you know, we get these terms of epidemic. So, and now we got the COVID pandemic, and then that hits, and it affects all levels that start rippling down. Like one I wanted to share because I'm a family doctor and addiction specialist. Substance use disorder research has taken a real big hit. There's a lot of less money for grants. There's less PhD applicants. There's less postdoc funding. Everything's been frozen. People are going to other fields. The grant applications have dropped. And so we're getting a big hit here, and they're trying to come up with solutions. One that I thought was pretty good, was early release from prisons. But it's kind of backfired because people get out, they're untreated, there's no support systems, there's less treatment centers, the ERs aren't available, there's no jobs, and people don't have insurance coverage. So the real term that I like to use is diseases of despair, which I've heard on and off with the whole everybody prior about it's suicide increasing, depression increasing, PTSD, pessimism, night terrors, chronic pain, emotional pain, hopelessness, basically. And that's driven the average lifespan in the United States down for the last 3 years. The average lifespan in the United States has dropped for the last 3 years. It hasn't happened in any other country in the world. So these other addictions to food and carbohydrates and lack of exercise and lack of fun and movement and poor nutrition, I'm learning a lot from, like Brent was saying about Ben Greenfield and even Wim Hof. These guys that aren't doctors, I'm learning a lot from people that aren't doctors. And it's just exciting to get my own life back 36 years ago. Like Dylan said, he was 36. I'm 36 years sober. I was in that dark side. And I got to see Jason in the dark side. That wasn't fun. That wasn't pretty. But I got to see him in the light side now too. But,
Jason, doesn't he look alive?
Yeah.
You look alive.
It.
All right,
So,
B. Taylor, tell us a little bit about what you're thinking when Dr. Daniel's talking. We have, just so you guys know, we have 5 minutes left of this summit because we said we'll be right on time. We got to finish on time.
I love what he's doing. I think, like I told Jason and Hillary, using my unique situation as global ambassador and advocate for our military veterans, first responders, and their families, and using entertainment, I came in this kind of hybrid to bridge this gap in this space because it's affecting a lot of my brothers and sisters in the United States military and veterans, and the trickle effect with their family members. So, a lot of times I told Jason before, the entertainment space didn't understand with what I was doing. And, the Pentagon and the military saw me as this unique situation to really use the entertainment space as well as the DOD space at this highest level, working over the course of these years with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and the Secretary of Defense, and really bridging that gap so that our society will take care of our men and women with PTSD in combat and their families, and not alienate them. And when in that space, when veterans don't get the proper help they need, you have a pride where you wear that uniform and then you don't go back. So then you take yourself out, or you commit suicide, or you become homeless. It affects the kids, the family, everyone. So it's like a trickle effect. So I use this platform to work in the entertainment, division, that in Hollywood we make so much money off of these films where we tell these military stories, which are great, but it's deeper than that. It's about when they come out, how they become veterans, so that we don't have Skid Row where when I go down there, 70% of the people homeless have pictures of them flying as pilots or.
Jason, what's the thing in B. Taylor that you get from him because he's
Well,
got.
I think in correlation with this, and B, just so you know, if you can hear us, you're cutting a little bit out, but I mean, we got the whole context of the beginning of the message and stuff. And I think that goes hand in hand with what Dr. Hedrick was saying. And B, Taylor is somebody that is an amazing performer. He's one of the ones that's going to be blowing up and somebody to watch and to see what he's done. And he was so decorated as a young kid. I just want to say, from high school, he had the opportunity to go play professional sports or sign major he passed on a contract with Motown. I mean, you name it. If it's not aligned, you want to talk about somebody that's got morals and passion for what he does. That's the man that's sitting right there. One of the most accredited people I've ever met and the most humble people I've ever met. But what goes hand in hand with Dr. Hedrick is saying is there's a lot of things that are happening with the prison reform and these different opportunities that are not there. That we're making one step forward and then two steps back. And I mean, just looking at, I mean, again, as a lot of these people we're talking about that need these programs are the military in general as well. I mean, we're dealing with that on both fronts of the addiction side. As these people are coming out, we go down, Tim, we do stuff with the Los Angeles mission, and we see how many of these veterans are struggling with addiction. And now we're being defunded in this space, and there's professionals that are leaving. And it just goes back to why we're doing this, is because we got to come together to make a shift, make a change, having all these professionals, these entertainers, these influencers, be able to make a shift with this and see that there's a lot more going on. Like B brings up such a phenomenal point. As you see these hundreds of billion-dollar films that are being made, but the people that we get to live in this country because of these people fighting these wars and doing what they're doing, and they're homeless on the streets is absolutely unacceptable. Pure unacceptable. They should not be that. It should be the total opposite. These people should be praised for what they are doing. And it's, so that's, it just goes hand in hand. That I think I just want to close with my highlight on this is that this hill that we are looking up is bigger than people can comprehend. And that's why we're starting here, though. We got to plant a flag.
Yes. So Dr. Hendrick, sorry for putting time on everybody. We've done it to all the speakers. But if you could say something in a minute or two that's just on your heart. So many people watching that right now may be in a dark, dark place, in a dark hole. Can you say something for 1 to 2 minutes that you feel like could lift them up?
Awesome. 36 years ago, I was a frightened little boy in a white coat, practicing medicine, suicidally depressed, taking all sorts of drugs. I asked for help, and that was really hard. And people helped me, and they loved me, and I hated me. And I think one of the key things when I look back on 36 years, somebody just asked me yesterday, how did you do that? How did you treat drug addicts and alcoholics for 36 years? I said, it was the ocean. I live right by the ocean. And I'm out in nature. I went to Sedona for 5 days. I just got back. We just got mini horses at our treatment center. I hang out with my dog. The ocean probably saved my life. I probably wouldn't be here without the ocean. And I have a little condo. I don't have a big, huge house. I have a little condo right on the sand, you know, and that's kept me alive. It's healed me. Nature, the beach, trees, hiking, being with animals, learning to love myself, mind, body, and spirit. Yeah.
I love it. Hey guys, I'm so proud of us. We did it all. So many amazing guests, so many takeaways in right at 2 hours. So I'm going to go to Hillary Roberts, and Hillary, you're going to say some final thoughts, then Jason Waller. Hillary, why are you so excited about our first virtual summit today?
I'm excited because we are instilling hope in people afflicted with these awful conditions of alcoholism, drug addiction, mental health, substance abuse, suicidal ideation. There is hope. There is hope. I didn't know there would be hope. I was so hopeless. And come take a chance. Come take a chance. And if you have somebody afflicted in your family, get help. Get help for them. Have them come to redsongbird.org. And if you're afflicted with codependency with some of these issues, but you're trying to control and help and save that loved one, come get help.
I love it. And Hillary, can you help us with, before Jason closes with some final thoughts, some of the people we need to thank? We have a board. We have other people that have been working on this, like Vito and others. What did it take to put this together?
Well, number one, Number one, Vito from the Maria Group, who's been helping the Red Songbird Foundation. He and Ariel, thank you. And the whole company, thank you so, so much. I want to thank Alex, our executive director.
I mean, Alex has done such a great job, and he's so handsome. Sometimes it's almost overwhelming.
He is, and he's a beautiful, beautiful soul. I want to also thank Joseph that works for you, Tim.
Yes.
Joseph. I want to thank all of our speakers today. Oh my gosh, you guys, I feel like I've had like a month of therapy today. And I want to thank my beautiful co-chair, Jason Waller, for, I mean, he's December 17th, everybody tune in, because my brother is celebrating his sobriety day. I can't wait. And then last but not least, and I want to thank my board before I get to you, Tim. I know Brandy Ledford was on here. We have our amazing board members that you'll see listed on our website that contribute so much and believe in our cause. We want to thank you. And I want to thank all the people that are donating today. I take no money from my foundation. I've given tons of money to my foundation. I take 0 cents, and I give a lot. And because I want to help give back a fraction of how my life has been saved in all these areas. So thank you for all the people giving today. But, and above that, Jason, thank you for introducing me to Tim Storey, because Tim, when I met you, you were this light. You walked into the house and I'm like, pow, this man is something fierce and special and anointed and blessed and humble and amazing, and so many words that I could just go down the whole dictionary. Tim Storey, your love that you give, not even, you get to help a lot of the elite, a lot of the famous, but you have a heart to help those that can't afford, that can't do those. And I love that. I support you in that. And I think it's so beautiful. You help all kinds of people from all kinds of backgrounds. And you are this angel on earth. You are this angel on earth. And we are so grateful that you're on our board and that you did this today.
What a privilege. And thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, Jason Waller, send us out.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody. Tim, Hillary, what an honor. You know, I got so much out of this. I'm over here taking notes on my notepad of just all the stuff that I took away. I mean, selfishly, I've learned so much, and I'm just so, so grateful. You guys, if you're struggling, reach out. You know, there is a way out. There is a solution. And yeah, thank you for everybody that is giving. I really wish that we had more time. I mean, that's just shows. I mean, I want to do another one like soon, and it's just because there's so much to continue talking about. And you guys, if there's any questions that you have that are watching this, any comments, thoughts, what you guys would like to hear about, please submit questions. Please, go to our Instagram, go to our website, email us, connect with us so we can talk on pertinent topics that you guys want to learn about. We're here to serve. We're here to be here for you guys. And I appreciate you joining us. And thank you so much, Tim. Thank you, Hillary, Alex, our team, the board. You guys are amazing. You guys have a wonderful weekend.
Beautiful. Final thing, you could be a giver. So many people are giving already. And as you give, don't forget, you're helping to be a life lifter and a life giver. Be a life giver today. Because seriously, guys, could you imagine if all of us that are watching this just gave the amount we're supposed to give, how many people's lives are going to be changed? Thank you for watching us today.